What is regret? Two elements must therefore be rooted out once for all: the fear of future suffering and the recollection of past suffering, since the latter no longer concerns me and the former concerns me not yet. Seneca, from Letters from a Stoic. After a long day at work and terrible traffic, you finally make it home. The stress has taken its toll, and you're exhausted, bored, and frustrated with the day's events all at once. You walk into your kitchen to find a heaping pile of dishes, something you asked your spouse to take care of this morning. Yet they're relaxing in front of the TV as if nothing's wrong. You feel the anger rising up, and unable to control yourself, you yell at your spouse. You don't hold back. You're out to make a point, to prove that what happened is a really big deal. Seneca said, "We often suffer more in imagination than in reality." He was saying that regret is no more than an emotion of our imagination. We believe that had we said something, or held our tongue, had we acted differently, the outcome would have been different. Why do I feel regret? Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. Seneca. The power of regret is not to be understated. If we truly want to improve our life, we can't run away from these negative feelings. We can't hide them. But should we just accept this despair? Should we just come to terms living with regret? This is what the great writer Samuel Johnson must have been wondering near the end of 1775. With 1776 on the horizon, Johnson wrote in his diary, "When I look back on resolutions of 1876 improvement and amendment which have year after year been made and broken, either by negligence, forgetfulness, vicious idleness, casual interruption, or morbid infirmity. When I find that so much of my life has been stolen unprofitably away, and that I can descry by retrospection scarcely a few single days properly and vigorously employed, why do I yet try to resolve again? I try because reformation is necessary, and despair is criminal." Johnson came to terms with his past, but not with his regret. He chose to reflect upon his hardships in order to better himself, to avoid making those same mistakes in the future. He chose to fight regret, not to wallow in it. If there's one thing we can learn from Johnson, it must be that experiencing regret is inevitable, but our actions and our mindset are not. Thus, the question is not, why do I feel regret? But rather, how do I deal with it? How do I move on? How can I make myself better because of this? In order to answer these questions, the Stoics practiced the following strategies to help them build their mental toughness and resilience, starting with examining what they controlled. Focus on what you control. Every event has two handles, one by which it can be carried, and one by which it can't. If your brother does you wrong, don't grab it by his wronging, because this is the handle incapable of lifting it. Instead, use the other, that he is your brother, that you were raised together, and then you will have hold of the handle that carries. Epictetus. One of the most important practices in Stoic philosophy, which was introduced by Epictetus, is determining what we control and what we don't. What we have power over and what we don't. What we can change and what we can't. There are two ways in which we can look at the past, two handles we can grab, to use Epictetus's quote. The first handle forces us to perceive the past as an inevitable experience, destined to wrong and hurt us from the beginning. The opposite handle, however, allows us to extract the good parts, and use our experiences to benefit ourselves. The past is something we can't control anymore. We can't change what we said, what we did, or how we felt. We can, however, control the present. We control how we grow from our experiences. We control how we respond to adversity. We control how we can use our regret to our advantage. We control how we act right now. We must. To learn more on this topic, check out You Control How You Play, where Ryan speaks to the Cleveland Browns about the importance of perspective, staying motivated, and knowing what they control. Love your fate. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Marcus Aurelius. After we sort out what we control, we must find how to respond, regardless if we control what's happening or not. We must determine how we handle ourselves. We must determine how we overcome obstacles. We must determine how to move forward. In the first book of his Discourses, Epictetus envisions himself being executed by Roman guards, his life out of his control. In a display of tranquility and wisdom, he lays out his thoughts. I must die. But must I die bawling? I must be put in chains, but moaning and groaning too? I must be exiled. But is there anything to keep me from going with a smile, calm and self-composed? The world isn't fair. We all know this. We don't always get what is ours, even if we've earned it. We don't always win, even if we play hard. But we can't be surprised when we don't win. If it comes as a constant surprise each and every time something unexpected occurs, you're not only going to be miserable whenever you attempt something big, you're going to have a much harder time accepting it and moving on to attempts 2, 3, and 4. You're going to have a much harder time living in the present instead of lingering in the past. You're going to have a much harder time trusting your instincts and fighting regret. Then remind yourself that past and future have no power over you, only the present, and even that can be minimized. Marcus Aurelius, from Meditations.